Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey, GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey, kids. Welcome back to another week of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your completely impartial, 100% unbiased, and rather dejected co-host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Joining me this week, as usual, is GT.
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
And MJ, back from, I mentioned last week that you were off gallivanting somewhere, so it looks like you survived at least.
Yeah, my sister and I are back online, and I missed you guys so much, so I'm happy to be back this week.
Glad to have you back. It was great having Grizz filling in, but it's not the real team without you here.
Yes, thanks, Chris, for filling in for me. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I got to tell you, it's a good thing that we're recording in 3 separate locations, or we wouldn't be doing this because wouldn't want you guys to go through the summer bug that I have picked up, some kind of a stomach flu or something with it. So it's been a bit of a rough day. If I suddenly disappear for a bit, don't get worried. It's just my stomach rejecting lunch again.
That will a certain segment of the podcast. All of a sudden, you will leave.
Yeah.
Oh, what a mystery!
It'll happen quick if it happens. Trust me. Okay. So anyway, getting on with stuff. I'll start out just giving my fantasy update for the week. So I was up against the league average. So there's 17 people in the league. It's an uneven number. So 1 week, rather than having a bye, they just have to be better than half the league. I had a good week, 134.6. I think I was second in scoring in the league, or third, something like that. And thank you to Nathan and the fact that he scored a bunch, even though they couldn't stop anything.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the results, so I'm not sure where this will leave me in the standings. I'm 4th in scoring, but because I've lost a couple more games than some people, I was 7th last week. So we'll see. How about you, GT? Did you bother with a team this week?
Yeah, I did all right. I was 100 and not quite 116 points, and I made a couple mistakes, but I did okay. I had Nathan as well. I'm sure 90% or more of the players, we all wish we had picked the other quarterback, but nonetheless, we did all right. I see you had Heslow as your sneaky starter, and I went a different route, and it didn't work out so well for me. But yeah, no, it was not too bad. It was not too bad.
Yeah, that one was definitely luck that he picked that game to arrive.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so that's what we're doing. For anybody who cares, I do the Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy that drops on Thursday usually, although it may be Friday now because we're at the end of the Thursday night games. And in fact, with Labor Day this weekend, we only have 3 games and they're all Sunday and Monday. So this one might even drop on Saturday just so I can get some depth charts. We'll see. We were going to talk a little bit about a few things here before we got into the games. One was, if anybody hasn't heard about it, Daniel Okapogo, I think is how it's pronounced, for lineman for the Red Blacks, was taken to the hospital during the game, right at the end, the last, I think, 3 minutes of the game on, when was that? Friday night. Good news is he was released the next day. Doesn't seem to be anything critical on it. They're on bye this week, so we probably won't get any updates on it until next week. But I wanted to put that out there because it's good to see it wasn't as serious as it could have been.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a strange injury, the way that he stood up after it. He didn't look like anything significant happened, and then he stood up. It looked like he was going to be fine, and then all of a sudden he just went down. He took a knee, and the next thing he was on his back, and they were bringing out the cart and the ambulance. They said he might have bounced his head when he went down, and that might have been what it was. But yeah, it looked very scary. It was a long time. They were making sure he was all in the right position and everything else. So it was very scary there on Friday.
Yeah, it was. And in fact, to me, it looked like he put his hand up for a sub. And then, like you said, he started to kneel down, and it looked to me like he got basically to his knees and just collapsed the rest of the way. It was like I don't know if he passed out but it was just like he suddenly didn't have any of the muscular control. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed that it's
I would
nothing long term.
I would rather them always be extra cautious than not cautious enough, because this is a
100%.
person's life, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just
definitely.
football.
Yeah. You
This is not
don't
your
want to take any chances.
So I know it's hard when they stop for that long and to get back, especially with that game. There was 2 minutes left in the game, but 100% every time I would rather them be cautious than not.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's okay.
Definitely. And like La Police said, it's something that's not in the player's mind. They've got to feel invincible to go out and play. And then when something like that happens, it is in your mind for at least the rest of that game. It's part of the game. Just thank goodness he's fine. We'll move on. MJ, you were going to talk about the fine that Mr. Alway received.
Yeah. I feel like this episode, again, I'm talking about men behaving badly.
Okay, I think we have our title for the episode.
Huawei got the maximum fine, which 3 Down Nation reported to be, you tell me if this is an accurate amount of money for what happened, $2,000 and $2,083. 2 hits, one on Morgan, a high hit on Morgan, and then one of spearing on the fullback. No ejection. I don't think he didn't get ejected.
No.
This guy, I was Googling him because I was like, oh, this guy always seems like he's in trouble. And he's been getting fined for these kinds of hits since 2017. Like, this is not new. He's a repeat offender. So I'm not sure why a repeat offender is not getting suspended. And he claimed he's like, the fullback hit. He's like, well, guys, if I had like changed any other way, if I had hit him any other way than that spear, I would have been knocked unconscious. And I was like, I don't think that's true. No one else is spearing on the field. Well, they were earlier this year. They've all cleaned it up, but he's the last one standing on the spearing. So I'm not sure.
And
well, from what I understand, the reason he wasn't ejected is because spearing doesn't call for an ejection.
Oh, it should.
Should, absolutely. I agree with you. But at this point in time, spearing does not call for an ejection. So that's the reason he wasn't. And the maximum fine, as I also understand it, is half a week's paycheck. And that's part of the players' agreement with the union and the leagues. So that is the maximum fine they can hand out without a suspension, which then becomes a full week or however many weeks you're suspended for. So unfortunately, they gave him everything they could, but it's not enough because, again, he's been on multiple teams. It's been multiple years. He lives on the edge, and sometimes, and more often than not, he goes over it, and he has a penchant for doing it over the years, and no matter what team he's on. So, I think, again, it doesn't matter who the player is. Spearing should be an ejection, period. And 2, definitely, if not, the first one, but certainly the second one should be an ejection, and then a suspension.
I've always, or not always, because they've only done this the last couple of years, but was really surprised when they made the 2 misconduct penalties an ejectable offense. You were gone if you took 2 of them, but they don't have that on unnecessary roughness. Unless they call it a misconduct, you can take as many of them as the coach will leave you in there for. And I don't get that, because the misconducts are generally to keep people from fighting and taking things over the line. But those unnecessary roughness is where you lose players.
And so as I understand it right now with the rules is if you hit somebody with your open hand on their helmet is actually a bigger penalty than spearing.
And there is spearing and then grade 2 spearing, and I'm not positive on this, but I think the grade 2 one is an ejection because somebody did that earlier in the season. It was raised to that level. It became a 25-yard penalty, and I think they were ejected, but I don't recall.
So
I think it was only the 25-yarder. I don't think they were ejected either. I think it was just the 25-yarder. I don't recall 100% either, but I remember us talking about that. It was like the first or second game. But I think it was only a 25-yarder. So, but I don't remember exactly.
So what's it gonna take? Like, is he gonna So is Micah always, is he going to take out Bo Levi? Is he going to take out Trevor Harris? Is he going to take out a team's top receiver? Like when's the line here for this
Yeah.
guy? When does it
Yeah.
stop? Because my thing is like maybe he just hasn't hit a star enough person.
Don't know. He was on the panel earlier this year, and he comes across very articulate and intelligent. So I don't know why he doesn't change that aspect of his game. You would think that if nothing else, you'd do it to save yourself the cash. You don't want to be losing
Yeah.
chunks of money like that.
He bounced around between BC, Montreal, and then seemed to disappear and looked like he was going to be out of the league for a bit. And then Calgary signed him 2 years ago, and he played there for 2 years. I remember them talking about it, and a lot of the fans saying that, if he's going to be the player, the quote unquote dirty player that he has been, we don't want him on the team. But the team saying no, he's promised to clean it up. And he was pretty good over the last couple of years. It wasn't until this year that all of a sudden he's back to the antics that he had a few years ago. Because he did take a few penalties in Calgary over the couple of years, but nothing that led with his head, and not nearly as the way that he had been before. So I'm not sure why all of a sudden he's back to doing it again.
Unless the DC is saying to. I mean, I don't want to besmirch or libel Benavides, but he is an old coach, and it wasn't that many years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, that a DC in the NFL had a bounty on players' heads.
Right.
So it could be that's what they're looking for, and the defense isn't doing anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I don't
it
want to
seems like
watch football like that, though.
no,
I don't want to
either.
watch that. I don't want to watch I don't want to watch anyone getting carted off in an ambulance. It's going to happen, and I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, his second hit on, wasn't it Dallaire, I think, the fullback?
Yeah.
I don't think they carted him off, but he was injured and out. And that.
Same with the guy from
I don't get it.
Edmonton, right? Who was the guy that he hit in Edmonton? I think he's hit him twice now.
Okay, I can't
Whoa.
recall that, but
Yeah.
it seems like he's trying to be this generation's Kyrie Bear. There seems like every now and then there's a player that's just like that.
Yeah, well, as I say, when he came into the league initially with BC, his reputation was really quite bad, and he hit really hard. He was a hard hitter, and he played past the line on a great many occasions. And I wonder again if he's just trying to prove that he's still a hard hitter and that he still can, maybe he's slipping a bit and maybe he's just overplaying it, trying to keep up, so to speak. I don't know, but it is interesting that all of a sudden this year it's back where it had been for the last couple of years.
And hopefully they'll, in the off season, who knows, but hopefully they may start taking a look at the rules some and start letting some ejections happen, because again, that half check, which when you think about it, if $2,100 is half of his game check that he gets, half of a week's salary, then I hope he got a bunch in a signing bonus or something, because that doesn't add up to a lot of money over the season. But hopefully they'll change it so that, and again, I guess you have to negotiate with the Players Association and all, but I would love to see them taking these things more seriously.
Players Association should be taking things like this more seriously, because now there's players injured. Why are you protecting the guy that's injuring them? I never understand this.
No, I think I said it before on here. My feeling is that if you do a blatant, like if you get called for unnecessary roughness because a play went that way and you can't stop it. There are times when linemen get called because they've been pushed into the quarterback. So I get that. Those ones you don't want ejections for. But my feeling is that if you do something that is blatant unnecessary roughness and a player is injured, you're gone, not for that game. You're gone until the injured player comes back. Because then you'll start getting coaches coaching it out of the system too. And it seems fair to me. If you're going to take somebody out for 3 weeks, then you should be sitting there too. My hot take on it. Who knows? What else have we got? It's that time of year. The NFL cuts at the end of their preseason have come in. And I'll run through the ones that I've found, because there's a bunch of them, and then we can talk about it some more. But as far as I know, these are for the Argos have the rights for two of them, Micaiah Polk and Ralph Hawley. And I saw today that Polk has already come and signed back with the Argos. So
Yeah.
that'll certainly help them there.
They already have a
Mind you,
video of him practicing with the team.
yes. It would have been better if the defense got somebody back, but that offense is cooking. So there's those two. Winnipeg, unfortunately, Taylor Elsgma, I can't even say it. Sorry about that, Tyler, was waived by the Packers, and Ontario Pokey Wilson has also been released. Now, I should say in all of these, I haven't heard anything other than Polk about them signing here, and there's been no mention of if they've been going to be offered practice roster spots by the teams. So I don't know if they'll come back or not. It's probably a lot to do with position also. There's that. Then it would certainly help the Riders if they could get, because they've got a Joe who played for them last year, has been released, and he'd be a help with that receiving core. But there's two linemen, Kyle Hergel and Sidney Sow, that they have the rights to because they drafted them up here, and both of them are released.
Mm-hmm.
Now, linemen tend to bounce. In my experience, linemen tend to bounce around the NFL more because there's not so many of them. And if you've got the talent at all, you might get a chance. So who knows on that? And then the last one, who I don't know if anybody still has his rights, is Nikola Kalinick, who I believe played for the Tiger Cats back 5-6 years ago. But I don't know how long the rights stay with you once you've been released to go to the NFL. I don't know if there's a time limit on that. But anyway, those are the ones I've heard of. Do either of you know of anyone I've missed, or any thoughts you have?
Go ahead.
Do you want
Okay,
Well, so friends, I promise I tried to pay attention to this, and also the MLB released their 2026 schedule today, but it was all overshadowed because Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got engaged, and once that was announced, goodbye anything else on my social media. A complete eclipse. Congrats,
and
Tyler.
I never even heard about that, but yeah.
What? Yeah. So every CFL is posting about it. CFL teams are posting about it. NFL teams are posting it. NFL, yeah. Complete eclipse of any other sporting news today.
Well, okay. Well, congratulations to the both of them.
What
They
a
look
day
like
to
a very happy
overshadow the
couple.
NFL and the Major League Baseball. It's just complete eclipse.
We know where priorities are.
So, without sounding too cynical, has Vegas released an over-under on how long it lasts?
I bet you they have. I bet you there's also when they're going to get married, where they are, who are going to be. Yeah. We could create a
I
little
don't
pool
know.
for it.
This is where it's really good that we have you here, MJ, to make sure we're filled in on that. 'Cause frankly, that's an area that I don't care. The goddess bugs me when we're watching the games, because we'll be watching the panels at the start and they'll go to an interview of one of the players, and I just fast forward through it. She's, well, wait, don't you want to hear it? I don't care. He plays. I care about how well he plays. I don't need to know, what his dog's name was and whatnot. I'm a little cynical about that. A rubber meets the road guy. Anyway, any other thoughts on the players, or should I jump on?
Well, I think there's some interesting names there. I think a bunch of them are going to get signed. I think, as you said, Mackay Polk's already back. I would think Ontario Wilson's going to end up back in Winnipeg. I would think Ralph Hawley's probably going to end up back in Toronto, which will help their defensive line a lot. One of the things they really needed. Excuse me. I'm not sure about those two offensive linemen for Saskatchewan. I could see them both kind of bouncing around. And the same, I think Ajo will probably end up back in Saskatchewan, just based on, that's what happens. Samuel Emelis didn't make it. I can't see Ajo making it. But the teams have until tomorrow, from the way I understand it, to get re-signed or picked up by another team in the league, and if they don't, then they can be re-signed by their original teams, then and put on their practice rosters. And if they don't get that, at that point in time, they're free agents, and that's when I think you'll see them start to drift back up, if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Elgersma. Well, I don't know why I struggle with your name so much. I think he will probably find a practice roster spot somewhere there, and I think that if he does clear the waivers, then there's a good chance Green Bay will put him on the PR, because right now they only have 2 quarterbacks on their roster, and there was talk I heard before about they don't always carry 3, but I think you'd want to have at least somebody on the practice squad that can come in and play, and they seem more impressed with him than the previous third stringer that they had that they drafted a few years ago. So I'm fingers crossed for him, and maybe fingers crossed for keeping the Bombers down where they are, because they've been good enough.
The only other notable one I saw was Curtis Rourke was put on the non-designated injured list so that he can stick around for the entire year in San Francisco without them even using a practice roster spot for him, because it was outside of the NFL that his injury occurred. Therefore, they can put him on the whatever that designated list is, and then they don't have to worry about it. So you won't see him coming up this year, at least. He'll get another year before he even has to, bounce around or whatever it is that he'll end up having to do. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess he's had the surgery on the knee and everything, but it's going to be longer term. So whether or not they add him to the practice roster later in the season or something, we'll have to see. But they could also do, like you said, just keep him there on the injury designation and have him learn the system like that. Yeah. Alrighty then, we'll move along. As everybody knows, MJ wasn't with us last week, and she tells me she's got some thoughts on Winnipeg re-signing Mr. Houston.
I'm kind of glad I didn't talk about this last week, because I was very, very upset about this, and I've had a week to think about it. And Michael Shea said, I don't even know why they trotted him out. They should have made the GM come out and do this, but he said that need never trumps integrity. And my friends, that is a lie. It is a lie. But don't despair, because you as a fan actually have a lot of control in this situation. Let me tell you a story. Let's take it back to 2017. 2017, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are 0-8. Kent Austin is the GM and head coach. He has just resigned as head coach. June Jones is brought in as the head coach. June Jones goes to Ticat management, which is Eric Tillman and Scott Mitchell, and says, I have a guy for us, a good coach. His name's Art Briles. Let's bring him in as assistant head coach. It'll be great. Men deserve second chances. He didn't mean it. Quick story on Art Briles. He was at Baylor, and he was a coach there, and there was a sexual assault, a scandal involving all of his players, and he covered it up, and it was intimidating women to not report things. He got dismissed, whole thing. You can Google it. I don't need to tell you all of it. It is announced that Art Briles is coming to save the Hamilton Tiger Cats. No, no, no. Fans, personally as a Tiger fan, I contacted the league. I contacted the team. We contacted the sponsors. And you know what the sponsors did? They contacted the league and the team, and some sponsors threatened to pull funding. One sponsor, in fact, said they were pulling their funding and was going to donate it to a women's shelter. Randy had to come down to Hamilton to talk to the Ticats management group to say, maybe this isn't such a good idea, guys. Within 12 hours, they had reversed it. Art Briles was no longer going to be with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We ran him out of town. If you're upset about Demario Houston being on your team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have on their website a list of sponsors. You're a Bombers fan and you're upset, you start contacting those sponsors, asking why they are okay with their money paying for this man. He has violated, the league found he violated their gender violence policy. Okay? Why is he there? You ask them why they're okay with paying a man's salary who's violated their gender violence policy. You're an Argos fan, you're upset about that guy on their team? Start contacting your sponsors. Ask why they're okay for paying his salary. The list goes on. So the team's never going to do the right thing. They don't. I have not yet seen a team do the right thing. You got to make them do the right thing. So you as a fan, it's up to you. That's my take.
Thank you for that.
You do it.
Thank you for that. I agree completely. I said last week on a bit of a rant, it's not, in the end, it's not even about the player. It's about the message you're sending, that if you're good enough, you can do whatever you want and you'll still find employment on a team. So that's a bad message to send to young men in our society. I think that covers it, though. So let's go to something that's... Go ahead.
You can affect change. You can do it.
Yes, you certainly can. And I
Absolutely.
hadn't thought about contacting the sponsors. I've emailed the league and the Bombers about this, but the sponsors is a great idea. Vote with your wallet. It
Yeah.
always works. But we'll go on to something that's, well, not quite as annoying about the Bombers, at least. They were out this week, seems like, signing every CFL experienced receiver that they could find. If the reports were true, this was all from sources, but on the one day they picked up Kyron Moore and Cam Eccles, who used to be with Calgary. So that makes me wonder. There's no injury reports out yet. They haven't started practicing because the games are on Sunday, but we had Jarrett Stearns go down for them in the game with what looked like an upper arm shoulder injury of some kind, and Dembski went out. And I'm wondering if this tells me that at least one of them and possibly both are long-term injuries. So that will hurt them because Stearns has been playing well for them this year.
Well, Strebler's lining up as receiver, so you need to do something.
Yeah. And blocking defensive ends.
Yeah, he's on it.
Okay. And
I
so go ahead.
I thought I read that. I'm sorry. I'll say this because it's you're probably not used to it, but I've been told I talk too much and I talk over top of you guys all the time. So this week I decided I'm going to let you and I'm just going to come in towards the end. And so like I was just told, stop it. So
Who told you
I don't have to tell
that?
you. So you know who told me that.
Well, I will say I disagree with them because that's part of the charm of the show is that we're passionate and we've got our ideas that we want to get out here. And so please don't hold back on our account. I'll tell you what, again, this is, take people behind the curtain a bit, but I watch our numbers in that. And one of the things that I did about 5-6 games ago was I stopped editing out a lot of the crosstalk. I'd been editing it all out and trying to make it sound really professional. And then I realized, no, we're just talking football. That's what we're doing. So I stopped doing that and it seemed to increase our viewers. So please feel free.
Well, I did read that it seems that it's not, I've heard nothing about Dembski yet, but I'm sorry, now I've lost the other receiver and I don't know why. Stearns, it seems, is out going to be long term. I read that somewhere and it just said long term. So I don't know how much that is. I don't know how much Kyron Moore has left. He's missed quite a bit of ball after a major injury himself.
Mm-hmm.
But Cam Eccles was a pretty good receiver last year for Calgary. I think he can make a difference. And if they get Pokey Wilson back, then that'll certainly help them as well. But yeah, they look like they're in pretty desperate mode for receivers at this time.
Yes. Yeah, and Moore points more to the fact that Stearns is down anyway because he's got the same sort of skill set. He's older and, like you said, has slowed down a bit, but he's a little Weston Dressler type, smaller, faster, making people miss. So
I also wonder if this says something about how long Schoen's going to be out. Is he gone for, how long is he gone for? Is like he came back, he was on that list, then he came back, then he went out again. And I'm really not, because it's Winnipeg, so you never know what's going on.
No, of course not.
But I really don't know how big that injury is and if and when he's going to be back on the team. And that might say something about his injury status too.
Yeah, I had only heard that he'd gone on the 6th game, but that doesn't tell you anything. It's like you look at MBT, he's hurt so bad that as soon as his first 6 weeks are over, he'll go right back on it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're mean people at times.
Yeah, it's a reoccurring elbow.
Yes. Other little bit. This is not really big news, and I was just going to skip it, but I thought it might be make for a bit of an interesting discussion around the background of it. It came out this week that the Argos traded a DB Milton to the Red Blacks for a 7th round pick. I think Milton's a backup. It's not a huge story, but it got me thinking, why do you figure we see so few trades in the CFL compared to, well, the NFL, but other sports and other leagues too? We don't seem to be, a trade is maybe once a year kind of thing, it feels like to me.
Well, it feels to me like, I think it's because it's such a small league. You're just, I think they're just afraid to trade players back and forth. And it's either a desperate GM or a renegade GM to start making those kind of bigger deals. But it's interesting. I think Toronto's made 3 deals already since last year, 3 if not 4 trades since last year, since the Grey Cup, which is more than most teams make in 3 or 4 years. And not all of them have been big trades, but they did trade Adam Maboye to Ottawa for Chatfield, who went from their negotiation list, and he's turned into a pretty good defensive lineman for them. There was and that was kind of a sneaky little trade when they first did that one. Again, a negotiation list player, soon to be named later. All right, one of those. But now we know who they all are. And then they traded. Well, they made the trade with Calgary for Cam Judge, and that's worked out semi okay for both teams, but I think Calgary's got the best of that so far. And now they've made this deal. They also made the one to Edmonton a couple weeks ago for the running back Brown, who played on this past weekend once McMahon got injured and looked like the best running back they've had in the system all year long. So they've made that's 4 I can think of since the Grey Cup, which is a lot. And you're right. There's traditionally not a lot of certainly the trade deadline is usually don't even notice it's come and gone. And I'm not sure if it's because everybody thinks they're in it, so nobody wants to make a trade. It's like you never get trades unless you always hear about the selling and who's selling and who's buying. But because there's only 2 teams or 3 teams that are necessarily at the most that are out of the playoffs so early, you really don't want to make those trades. I don't think there's a lot to make a trade unless you go back and do the old Hamilton, we're trading for a coach or whatever that Moss trade was, that scam that they pulled a few years ago there, just before the playoffs, right? It's just interesting, you're right, that there's not a lot of trades, or there's a 15-player trade or 12-player trade or whatever that was quite a few years ago with Dunnigan and all those guys moving all over the place. So it's either little tiny ones or great big ones, but nothing much just in between.
You're right. And thank you for pointing out those Toronto trades. I forgot about them. And did they not also trade to Allen to BC? I can't remember who they got back. Or
They got what's one of their linebackers, another Canadian linebacker who was starting for them there.
Ryder Varga,
and he's only playing special teams on Toronto, which has surprised me a little bit. I thought he would actually get more playing time on the defense rather than just special teams. But you're right, I'd forgotten that was not a free agent signing in BC. That was also a trade. So that's 5 trades.
So this year, the Baltimore Orioles and the Blue Jays had a double header right at trade deadline. And in between the double header, the Baltimore Orioles traded a pitcher to the Blue Jays. His name Dominguez, and he walked over to the Blue Jays clubhouse and he pitched in that second game. And I was watching that Red Blacks and Elks game. I was like, oh, my kingdom, for the Red Blacks to trade for Trey Ford in the middle of this game, and he could just start the second half for them. Like, come on, do it.
Yeah. or Montreal for that matter.
Yeah, like somebody
they could certainly use him.
I am waiting for a team to try and trade for him, like Ottawa or Montreal. I want a good blockbuster. We never do them. And the most fun we have is free agency signings. And honestly, I think a blockbuster. But these guys, it's hard to do a blockbuster trade when people only have a 1 or 2 year contract signed. It's not really worth giving up a lot of people for a 2 year contract when they may elect to resign with you or not, right? So, but it could be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, they also blew up in your face. What was that Edmonton Toronto one where the kicker got traded, and who was it? They traded a quarterback or something. What was that? Do you remember that?
Wasn't that the Ricky Ray trade?
The Ricky Ray trade. What a disaster.
They got back a quarterback, but a Stephen Giles, I think they got back in return for Ray. Yeah. But there were other players in there, and I think there was a kicker in that too.
I don't think that CFL GMs know how to do trades. They should talk to the Blue Jays, I guess.
Yeah. It's possible.
Maybe that's why Toronto's trading, GT. Rogers owns everyone now. They're learning some tricks.
Yeah. Could be. They could well be. I think it's also partly because the roster sizes and just, the number. And again, because I don't follow the league south of the border, but I never hear, it doesn't seem to me that I hear a lot of trades, considering there's 32 teams in that league. You don't hear about 6 or 7 player trades like you do in hockey, baseball, and basketball. In those 3 leagues, there's multiple player trades all the time. And yet in football, it just doesn't seem to happen. Even in a 32 league team like the NFL, you don't hear about. There might be them, but to me, I don't hear about them. Considering there's 32 teams, you think there'd be more players going left,
Like,
right, and
they
center.
will trade for a player and he'll be there for 45 minutes and they've already traded him to some other team. Like, just a stack of dominoes all the time with those
Right.
guys.
Yeah. Yes, and
In the
that's
NBA, you can trade coaches, and wouldn't that be fun in the CFL too?
okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, actually,
Sorry, so they trade.
you can trade coaches
What were you?
in
I,
NBA. You can trade for coaches.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about Nick Nurse might have been getting traded, but I think GT, you're right. Like, these teams are always in it till they're not, and so there's really no point in a midseason blockbuster trade when you're never a seller.
yes,
Right. Exactly.
and it
Yeah.
occurs to me, based on what you said, GT. I didn't really think of it that way, but you're right. That NFL is not known for it, and it may be the fact that if you're where a lot of these leagues, like you said, there's buyers and sellers, and you can pick up a player for the last month and a half of your season when you really need the push. That doesn't work quite as well in football unless they know your system already. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
you can take players and put them straight in, but they're not going to be. They may be more of
Like,
a liability.
the
Yeah,
Blue
they're less of
Jays
a
just
savior and more of a liability. Yeah.
like, the Blue Jays just
Yeah.
traded for a starting pitcher, but he doesn't need to know the Blue Jays pitching system because there isn't one. He has his
No.
own pitching
Right.
system, whereas a quarterback, there's a system, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard to
Yeah.
pick up in a short
Yes.
amount of time.
And
Yeah.
even with hockey, there's more to hockey than people realize. There are actual strategies and lines, and you need to know some of that, but it's still a lot more individual effort. If you're a defenseman for one team, there's a good chance you can go in and play defense for another team. I think anyway.
Yeah, no, the same. And as you mentioned in basketball, it's the same thing. If you're, you got to have to learn each of the calls, but the plays are basically all the same. And that's true in football too. But it does take more time to assimilate because it's so much more regimented, and you have to be, in the right place and get the timing down so much more. And it's less about, free flowing and just going out and doing what you have to do. You've got to get that regimented down and learn that system so much more. So
Yes. Well,
less of a savior mode.
Could you also imagine accounting for the Canadian ratio when trying to do trades?
Well, that's the thing is that's why,
Yeah.
like a guy like Milton that just got traded, that was a starter in Toronto last year and actually played relatively well and made some really good plays, and yet he only was a 7th round pick. That's all they got for him was a 7th round draft pick, and it's because the value of American DBs in particular, and even more so running backs, those are the two, are just the value that is just not there. So that's another reason you're better off just releasing a guy and go and find another one, because you're basically not going to get a lot back for him anyways when you try to go on the trading market. Look at even VA, who was a starting level quarterback and
Yeah.
ended up being what was considered a 1st round pick because of the way the weird draft went last year, but really it was a 2nd round pick. That's all they got for him, a 2nd round Canadian pick for an established and turned out to be an excellent quarterback. So the value isn't there for American players just because there's so many of them. You trade a Canadian, you're going to want a lot more. A starting Canadian, you better get something back. Calgary traded Cameron Judge, a starting Canadian linebacker who's a really good player, an all-star, but they got Flo Alamarte back. So they got something of value back.
yeah, I don't know that there's a lot more to say on that. What I guess the only thing that sort of occurs to me, I didn't realize Milton started for Toronto last year, That may explain why that trade happened, because Fields has gone off to be the DC in Ottawa when he was the co-DC in Toronto last year. So he probably knows something specific about that player that he wants. You're right. It's rare. Anyway, I thought might get us a minute or two of talk, and we've gone on off as we do for a long time. Let's go to something that's far less controversial.
Oh, yes.
Should the CFL change the playoff format?
Yeah. Nothing controversial there.
Yeah. Well, I have a hot take, I guess, on this, personal take. The part that bothers me is, first of all, people say, well, you got to change the rules to make it better. You can't just go with tradition. And part of me, I like the tradition of this is how the league has been for quite a while. I mean, at one point, there were 2-game total point playoffs and that, but for the last at least 30, 35 years, this is how they've done it. And secondly, they're talking about the fact that it may well end up that Edmonton has more wins than the second place team in the East. Why shouldn't they be crossing over as well? And it's not quite as much of an effect in the CFL just because of who you play. But I think that you're starting with a false assumption here that because a team has a better record, that they're a better team and deserve to be in the playoffs more. You see that stuff played out a lot more down in the NFL, where your in-division stuff really counts. And there'll be times when 3 of the best teams are in one division and only one of them makes the playoffs because they've all got 8-8 records or 8-9 now or whatever. And there's wild card teams from other divisions that get in ahead of them, even though they're not as good. So just the fact that you have a better record to me doesn't justify making all these changes. I like it the way it is, but I'm willing to hear what convince me otherwise.
What do you think, GT?
Go for it.
Okay, all right. So there is an argument for the top, like just a no division, just a full out 9 spots, first 6 in. That gets a little messy for like, what if Montreal and BC are like, there's a lot of travel involved. I think, if you want to just tweak it a little bit, you don't want to blow it up, and you still want division rivalries, East versus West, and, interdivision rivals. I think that you keep the top, I wrote it down. You keep the top 2 in each division. And then the final spot's wild card. You could have 2 East teams. You could have 2 West teams. You could have 1 West, 1 East team. Whoever has the best record out of those last 2 teams are the 2 teams that make it in. Like, baseball changed this to this because the same teams were making playoffs constantly, and people were getting really annoyed. And so they started with 1 wild card spot. Now they've expanded it to like 3, but they do play. You can't do the same thing in football, because you can't just have like a quick game and then play the next day, whoever wins. So I think I would like to see maybe top 2 in each team division, and then 2 wild card spots.
Yeah. And see, to me, kind of in essence, we've already got that with the crossover.
No, you don't.
Because
No,
if
you
we
don't.
If we got rid of the word crossover, and called it wild card, it would all go away. Because every other league has wild card, and everybody's fine with wild card in every other league, except they all hate the crossover because it's called the crossover.
Well,
if it
and
was
there's
just called the
rules
wild
for the
card team,
crossover.
it would be fine.
If there were no rules, it's just the next 2 best records are in. It could be 2 West teams, it could be 2 East teams, could be 1 of each. Doesn't matter. Whoever's got the best records after the top 4, you're in. And then there's no crossover rule like with tiebreakers, and you have to have one, and it gets messy, and there's lots of complicated rules, and I think that just makes people mad.
So how do you have who do they play?
See, because think of it this way. This year, it looks like our top 2 teams would be Hamilton and Montreal in the East, and in the West, it's Saskatchewan and Calgary. Then if you went strictly wild card, it would probably be where we're seeing the records right now. Winnipeg and BC are the 2 teams that go in. They're both from the West. Yeah. But that's going to happen anyway with the crossover.
Yeah.
But that's not every year,
though. It's
going
going to happen anyway.
It's not every year, because
yes, it is. Yes, it does. It literally works every
wild
year.
card with no rules, then. That's what I guess, like, just don't put the weird crossover. It has to be a tiebreaker series season. Just
Oh no,
It's
you
not-
have to. Well, you always have to have a tiebreaker because
Yeah.
two teams could always end up tied. So you still need a tiebreaker, even if you have a wild card. What if there's three teams that have the exact same record? What if teams 5, 6, and 7 have the exact same records? You need a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah, and their
So
tiebreaker now is
again, it comes
divisional, so
down to
you could change that, I guess, but
people have their two things. Number one, as I said, it's because it's not called a wild card and it's called a crossover. If it was called a wild card, no one would even think about it. And the other thing is that it's always this time of year that it comes up. Why don't we wait till 2 weeks left in the season and let's worry about it?
yeah.
Because it always comes up at this time of year every 3 or 4 years when one team is close and there's a couple of teams that aren't. If Toronto gets, Mackay Polk and Ralph Hawley back and Nick Arbuckle becomes the next whatever because that's the way he is after this week, and all of a sudden Davis Alexander comes back in Montreal next week after their bye, which might well happen, and they start winning again, there's no more conversation. And if
Yeah.
Edmonton loses the next 2 weeks to Calgary, which they might well do, I'm not saying they will, but they might well do, they'll be 4-10 or whatever, and there's no more conversation. It's a reaction to this week's games.
Yeah.
Is all it is.
I agree with you there. It's very, we CFL fans tend to get very reactionary when stuff happens. It's because I follow the Riders even more than anybody else. I kind of remember last year, they started off, I forget what they were 6-0 or something like that. And everybody was saying, "Oh, look at this! What a great team!" And then Harris got hurt, and they still won a game with the backup. And it's they're going to the Grey Cup. They're the best in the West. And then they went on a losing streak and lost 7 of them. And everybody was saying, "Oh, well, see, this is ridiculous. They don't even have a chance. They shouldn't even be in the playoffs this year. There's no way that if they sneak in, they should be allowed to." And in the end, they were one really weird wind gust away from having first place in the division.
I understand your point, and I don't disagree with you 100%. I get what you're saying. So 4 teams, and then the next 2 best teams, which I get, but you still need, as I said, I think you still got to have tiebreakers of some kind.
That is true. I did not think that part out.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other point that I will make against your argument is, as I said earlier, is how do you set it up? Who do they play? Who do those 2 teams that make it in? Does one, like if Winnipeg and BC right now were those 2 teams, who would they play in the opening round? And then who would they move on to play next? If you don't
maybe
have
we just
divisions.
have 2 top teams and everyone else is seeded down, but that just is silly. It gets silly. Then you might as well just have a 9 division, like a no division. I guess that's the other option. You just have no division. Top 6 are in.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to do that, and if you're going to do it, that's the only way you can do it. I think
And honestly,
is to go to a straight 9 team, no divisions, and do it.
I am not opposed to that. I mean, as long as you still keep your things like your Banjo Bowl and your Labor Day Classics and your home and homes, I don't see why. I don't see the need for 2 divisions necessarily all the time. If you want to watch the best football, have the best teams in the playoffs. But then there's always some rando. You're right. There's always some rando garbage team that sneaks in there and then goes on a run. And it happens, but that happens in sports all the time.
I remember the 5. What was it? The 3 or 4 win team in Ottawa that almost knocked off Edmonton in their 4th out of 5 Grey Cups, and with Conridge Holloway, I believe it was, at quarterback for Ottawa in those days, and they were very, very close within minutes of knocking off that dynasty in Edmonton, and they were like a 4-win team, 4 wins in the entire year, but they were the 3rd place team in the East, and they made it all the way through into the Grey Cup. So the last 2 Grey Cup winners were Toronto 2 years ago. They barely made the playoffs, and then people were saying they shouldn't be in the playoffs. They were the 3rd place team in the East.
Maybe with a 9-team league, only 4 teams make playoffs.
There's also that, and
you could do that. Then you're giving up viewership and revenue, though.
No, I know, I
Exactly.
know.
You're
It's
giving
it,
up
it, it
viewership
and
and
actually
revenue.
this all just circles back to the bottom line when we think about this is like how is the league going to make the most money
Yeah.
out of?
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
you
because
know
it is
how
a
the league
business.
makes more money? You know how the league makes most money? Have all 9 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all 9 teams.
But
Wild
there's no
card to the
credibility to
bottom.
that. See, there's
Because
no
the
way.
more as you talked about baseball, baseball didn't change it because the fans were bored. Baseball changed it because they weren't getting the numbers on television anymore because it was always the Yankees. They went to more teams and more teams and more teams in the playoffs because, like every other league, they saw that they were losing revenue and viewerships because they were always the same teams in the playoffs, and in baseball, literally, if you weren't if you were selling in July because you already knew you didn't have a shot at the playoffs.
Well,
Whereas now
even
you
with
can go right till October before you're out of it.
no, even
Yeah.
expanded
So
playoff format, it's still very hard to make the playoffs in baseball. Very hard. It's pretty
harder
easy
than
to
any other league.
Yeah.
Harder than any
make
other league,
NHL
but
playoffs.
it's still
It's extremely easy to make CFL playoffs, right? 6 out of 9 teams. You just got to scrape in there
oh yeah. Yeah.
and hope a crossover
Yeah.
doesn't knock you
I'm not
out.
I'm not despair I'm
No, I
not
know.
disparaging baseball because
Nope.
I'm a baseball traditionalist. I don't think they ever should have expanded the playoffs. I think it should have always been just the way it was.
No,
That's the way I
JT.
am with baseball. So so
You don't love the joy of
that's
a
me.
wild card
That was
playoff game?
the joy of baseball. That's what baseball is. That's
Maybe
tradition. That's what
CFL should
baseball is.
circle back to series for playoffs.
The best two, yeah, the total score.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
Yeah,
it was
that did
Leo Cahill
happen.
that blew that. It was Leo
yeah.
Cahill that blew that. It'll be a cold day in hell before we lose by that many, and they lost the next game by that many against Toronto, and they lost. That's how Toronto lost in one of the playoff series after that quote. So yeah, that'll happen.
But
Anyways, no, again, I don't think there's an issue with it.
mm,
I think it's something that if you had to do it, you would have to go to 9 teams straight. And if you do that, you lose East versus West, which I think doesn't matter during the season, as you said, because we have all those inter rivalry games that are not East West. They're always division within your own division. But I think it matters at the end. I think it still matters that the Grey Cup is East West. That's my personal opinion. And that's a traditional statement. Again, I believe in tradition, and I think that draws fans. And in the short term, would it hurt? Maybe not in the short term, but over the long term, I think it would hurt if it just was every year Calgary, Saskatchewan, Ottawa, Toronto. Never, because then I think you would lose half of the country in your championship game eventually. Maybe not initially, but eventually. And I don't think the league wants that by any means. So I think that's one of the reasons they shouldn't and wouldn't go away from it. I think the East-West thing is part of the league, and I don't think it should and will ever change.
pretty much what you were saying, the way that I was looking at it was the places that were, well, Edmonton's a different sort of thing, so forget that. But in general, the places where the league struggles to add fans tends to be BC, Toronto, and Montreal to a certain extent. And I wondered, Montreal and Toronto, if you have a couple of years of full Western playoffs, how many people there are going to even care? Or not
Yeah.
playoffs, but for full
Yeah.
Western Grey Cup. And the same thing out in BC. How many people in BC are going to bother to watch a game between Ottawa and Hamilton for the
And
Grey
how
Cup?
many people are going to bother to go and make
Yeah.
it that party? And that's
Yeah.
the party is part of the game, and the game is part of the party, and it's all part of the tradition, and that makes for the television event as well. Because without all of that stuff, it's just another game at the end of the season without any of that. And I think that's something that everybody needs to hold on to. And if we don't have all that stuff going on, then it's just not the same. And the game loses it. And the next thing you know, it's not an event. And then there's nothing to wait for the end of the year for.
So what I think we've learned is that we call it wild card. It's the same as a crossover, but we call it wild card so we all get a little less
Yeah.
fussy about it and just carry on as usual.
I think
Yep.
that's you asked for my opinion, you got it.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
fine
that
with
that
that.
sums it up nicely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against change if it's needed, but this doesn't fix an issue other than something that comes up once every 2 or 3 decades almost, and it's always a lot of speculation like this at mid-season, but who knows? Toronto could easily go on a heater and then it'll be,
Yeah.
never
And this
mind.
is all because Edmonton won against 3 bad teams, and now we're all like, "Ooh, we need to have a discussion because they could have been a cross."
You got that right.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
They got to
Yeah.
play Calgary back to back. Let's
Yeah,
all
so-
just take a deep breath. So, yeah.
Well, we'll see. But I think, yeah, you don't know. Again, because Edmonton won against 3 bad teams. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Yes. People don't have enough to worry about, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's done with that. I figured we should at least talk about it a little bit. Now I understand MJ's got a game for us to play.
Just because
All
we weren't
right.
fighting as much as we were, I just wanted to play. I wanted to do this last week because you guys were talking about how Ryan Dinwiddie was trying to throw his headset and then was like, "Oh, I shouldn't throw it," and he's having his little PR temper tantrum. So I thought we'd play a little game. I have 5 names of coaches. And I'm not going to tell you who, so we're going to do it. We're going to rank them 1st to 5th. 1st is Volcano. 5 is Chillest Vibes. The trick is you won't know any of the other names. So I'm going to start with Ryan Dinwiddie. On the scale of 1 to 5, where do you think he slots in on temper tantrum land?
Also, this is the blind test.
The blind test.
Well, I would say that if I replace the one designation, if I took out Volcano and put in Moss, he's almost full Moss these days.
Put Ryan at number 3.
Agreements?
Yeah, I'd put him higher, but if we're having to come to
Are we
consensus,
picking our own or are we doing consensus?
We can play it. Oh, we can do. Okay, I'll make GTs and Old Man. Okay, so what are you putting him at, Old Man?
So 6 is Volcano, right?
No, there's only 5. So
Oh,
1 or
5.
1
5.
is the
Okay.
worst, 5's the chillest.
Okay, so 1's the worst. So I'd put him at 2 then.
Okay. Kevis Reed.
Kavis
wow, that's a
Reed.
name I haven't heard in a while.
Kavis Reed. I'm trying to remember what he was about.
He used to coach in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the one
Yeah.
that told them like that there was going to be people having
Yeah,
to take
there's going to be
personal account. There's going to be consequences,
right? In Montreal, there would be consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was the GM in Montreal too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
but he wasn't. I would put him at 4 because he wasn't throwing stuff. He was more subdued.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd go 4 on that
He was
as well.
threatening, but he wasn't throwing.
Okay.
Threatening, not throwing. How's that?
Greg Marshall.
I only really paid attention when he was in Saskatchewan. And I
He
seem
used
to
to have a
remember
vein that would pop out of his head when he was mad.
Yeah, but I thought he was fairly chilled from what I remembered.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so but if I put him at 5 though, that leaves the next 2 as the worst, the 1 and 2. See, this is where you get in trouble in this game, right? Because this is at the end of it, you're like, all right. So because we don't know who they are,
Yeah.
it could be Pinball or something, right?
Yeah, it could
He's
be.
not going to be on the list. He's not going to be the number 1 worst guy by any means. Let's see, Dickinson could be up there though. Yeah,
I think
you know
I'll
what?
go 3.
I'm gonna have to put Greg Marshall at 5.
Okay. Old Man.
I'll go 3 for him. Leave myself some room on either side still.
Oh, yeah, I already used my 3.
My Cat fans disagreed with you.
Okay. Well, I could be wrong. Like I said,
No, we have different experiences, right? This is why this is fun.
Keep in mind, he was only in Saskatchewan for half of a season, and many of us Rider fans have blocked that from our memories.
That is fair. Jason Moss, our second last one. Jason Moss.
He's
Jason
the full
Moss
Moss.
is
He's
number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah.
number 1.
And our final one, Danny Machocha.
Oh my.
Danny could
Well,
go
I
off
guess
the
I have
handle.
to put him at.
You'd have to put him
I'd
at
put him at
number
5.
5.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be all that.
And he's number 2 on GT's list.
Yeah, he's got to be number 2 for me. That's all I got left. But yeah, and he could go off the handle.
So my fun Danny Machocha story is that one of my roommates her dad was, I think he was an umpire. He wasn't a head referee. And he said that Danny Machocha was the coach he hated reffing with the most. Because he would just scream the entire time and just never let up.
I seem to remember him wearing a hat, a baseball cap, and like always just like pulling it down and like
and just
scowling under
Now
that.
that you mention it, I'm
yeah.
thinking more of the recent Machocha as a GM who's been more subdued. But he had his times back in
I remember him going off the handle and then just looking completely despondent at the end of it in Edmonton. Like it was just like,
well,
a
that
lot
was
of
one
these
of the
guys
times.
coached in Edmonton, funny enough.
Yeah.
No, that was one of the times where Edmonton kind of went off a cliff during his reign. When he started as a coach, they were quite good, and by the time he left, they were less so.
Certainly did.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just a little bit of fun.
There's our game. Okay.
Ryan's in good company.
Yeah.
There are a few volatile ones out there.
Yeah.
You didn't give us any of the ones that should have been in there though. If we're going to go for number one,
like Dave.
Yeah, give me O'Shea.
Dave definitely would have been on the list.
Yeah,
would not have put O'Shea above somebody like Jason or Danny Machocha.
I think that you should have had O'Shea and Mace on there just so that there was some to put at the high end, because they are both very chill. You don't see them blowing up about anything. This is
just like a list of really mean men.
Yeah.
For fun.
Yeah. Okay, enough of that. We got we're well into this now, and we haven't even talked about the games yet.
Don't you worry, you're not by yourself.
All righty. So let's go on to the games. The first one here, let's hope I've transposed the scores properly this week. I don't think I made any mistakes. First game, Winnipeg at Montreal Thursday night. Winnipeg 26-13. I'll maybe say a couple of things just to kick it off. That Bomber team looked as good as they've looked anytime in the past 5 years on their Grey Cup run. They had the injuries to the receivers. They had problems, and they still they overcame it, and they did what they did in the best of those years. They got a lead. They usually somehow slow down a little bit in the third quarter, and then it's bully ball and Brady from there on. And that's what happened there. And strangely enough, playing against a four-string quarterback, they needed that because Montreal pushed them hard in this game. That's sort of what I think. Like MJ mentioned, in the second half, we had Strevin playing receiver, tight end, whatever with it. And I guess, they were trying to get just about anything that they could. The other thing, though, was that I really thought Montreal just abandoned the run for some reason. They were doing quite well with it in the first quarter. And then it just went away from it. And that may have been part of what cost them the game. Anybody else with thoughts on it?
Snead carried that team on his back. He was throwing long bombs. He was catching TDs. He could do it all. Quarterback, receiver, doesn't matter. Morgan, I told my son, because he was upset, I was like, you should not be upset. They played well. They basically had a practice roster on that field, and they played well. The problem is they let Brady start slapping his helmet. And once Brady starts slapping his helmet, it's lights out. And how annoying for the rest of us that Brady's in head slapping mode, because that does not bode well for anyone. Strebler's fired up, going in at receiver. And my favorite part of this game was not on the field. It was, did you see Paul LaPolice with
the face
paint? Yes.
That was great.
What a joy that man is. Isaac Berglund posted a video, the picture of LaPolice onto his Instagram stories. I thought it was so cute. And what else did I want to say? You cannot keep those Montreal Alouette fans down. You ban their air horns, they're going to bring in sirens. I love it. Everyone's so mad. And I was just thinking, Alouette fans, you are my people. You've this is going to stick it to the man. Yep. I'm going to make it even worse. You think my air horn was bad? Just you wait. Love it. Keep it up, Alouette fans.
Yeah, I thought James Morgan played well. He just, he was good, but he was just not quite good enough. I thought Brady, as you said, was just by the second half, he was running roughshod over them. It was full on Brady mode at that stage, and it made all the difference. Well, Alexander Hollins has been a great pickup for Montreal in the last couple of weeks. He's really proved his worth. And again, we talked about Dembski earlier, so it's interesting when he got injured, it was like, okay, didn't look like, again, it looked enough to be an injury, but we don't know how long, so we'll see. And then speaking of the panel, not only did they do the face paint thing, but they talked about between him and Rod Smith and talking about how he had to travel from Toronto to Montreal, Ottawa, and then they showed the trains, planes, and automobiles covered. Did you see that with him and
I
Rod
love
Smith?
that.
That was classic. That was
Yeah.
such a well done job. It was
Yeah.
just really great. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
So,
because
yeah, it
he
was
did
good.
3 games in 48 hours or something.
Yeah.
Dustin Nielsen posted on his Instagram, he was at his son's swim meet this past weekend.
Okay.
So I think he
But
was the missing one.
he's the
But I think they were still. Because
commentator.
Farhan,
Police is your color guy. So
Yeah.
it's probably Dwayne Ford that wasn't available this weekend.
But didn't Ford do the BC game with Farhan?
Ford and Farhan did the BC game.
In
Yeah.
Toronto?
No,
No, 'cause
they.
I was sure that
No, they
not
did
the
the Calgary game. Didn't
Calgary,
they do the
Calgary game.
Calgary
Yes,
game?
they
yeah.
were doing the
So it
Calgary
must-
game.
Yeah, it must be Suter that wasn't available
Yeah.
then.
Oh, maybe it wasn't
We missed
Suter.
the
He normally
dulcet.
would have the Western games.
So they were missing Suter and Dusty. They were
Yes.
down
Oh, look,
two
and we
guys.
never even noticed Glenn wasn't there.
Yeah.
There's somebody on Blue Sky always has like a no suits sign they always
Yes.
put up when he's commentating, and I didn't actually. Now I'm thinking about it, I did not see that, so he was the missing one.
He's been better the last year or two. He's not known to his cliches quite as much.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's wandered off the stuff. So
Anyway,
I agree with what GT said about Hollins. 5 of 9 for 132 yards. That looked relatively impressive. Couple of just the notes that I made about specific things. There was, I don't know if I imagine you both saw it, but there was that one run by Thies, or I'm not sure again how to pronounce his name, but that one just effort run where it looked like he was just going to be run out of bounds, and he somehow broke free and got the extra 8 yards for a first down. When's the last time you've seen a player in that situation manage to break a tackle like that? That was incredible. And then
he's been good since the preseason. We were talking about him as early as then, and I like him a lot. He's a little.
I like him a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did they used to call? Was it Ronick in Ottawa? A little ball of hate.
Yeah.
He seems like he could be that. And then I also thought at one point that Speaker forgot one of the prime rules of receiving, which as a coach I always used to say to them, when you're going over the middle, you're going to get hit. You might as well catch the ball to make it worthwhile, because he had one that was an easy catch and you could see him peeking before he put it in. And I thought Morgan was okay. I don't know he's got the arm strength for the CFL. I wasn't worried about it on that interception. Police talked about the fact that he was basically getting hit on the interception, so that's not on him. But there were 2 or 3 times he tried to go to the wide side of the field and came up short.
Well, maybe Snead will be their new QB.
Yes.
He threw for 45 yards.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Well, I don't know if you noticed, this was the other thing that I wanted to mention. I don't know if you noticed, but coming out of halftime, the panel, they ran a shot of it. Looked like there was a Pee Wee game being played on the field at halftime. And the shot was the Pee Wee quarterback going around the end and running like 60 yards for a touchdown. And as they came back in, Kate said, "Breaking news, the Owls have just signed him."
Yeah.
Anything else to talk about here, or?
I just have my quick Instagram update that Alexander showed a video of himself running on the treadmill shirtless yesterday. So maybe he's getting closer to coming back.
That's a good sign.
Or he's just posting thirst traps. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe both.
Yeah, I know I heard Moss saying that we're going to wait until he's ready and then wait another week just to be sure. So with the bye, maybe that's the extra week that they're doing with it. But yeah. So I guess the only other question that really needs to be asked was, after the performance by the Bombers, do you figure they're back and they're going to go on a heater again?
No.
Good.
You were playing against the practice squad.
Yeah.
No.
Like I said, they did. It wasn't just Zach had one of those games that he has them maybe once or twice a year where he's just bang on, and he's not going to do that again. And there's too many other issues. So I'm glad that I'm not alone on this one. I know agreement
They're
makes
gonna
bad
live-
radio, as they say, but
No, they're gonna live and die by Brady. He's the only one. I didn't even write down anyone else's receiving and rushing stats because it was just Brady. And that was the same as like last game. It was just Brady. So teams are going to figure out Brady, maybe. I don't know. They kind of can't, but you can't just rely on one guy.
yeah, exactly. Apparently he was over half their offense.
And there was another stat that came out as well, is they talked about it, was that there seemed to be some concern with some people that they were using Dembski too much, that the new OC, their whole offense this year has been on the receiving side, has been built around Dembski. And I don't blame him. He's an amazing player. He can do so much for you, right, in so many different ways. I don't blame them for using him as their primary receiving option. But if that's the case, and they now don't have him, and they don't have another player that can do all those things, it's going to hurt them even more. I still am not convinced they're that solid a team.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm not too nervous about the weekend coming up. I will say Lapo made a good point in that you hear a lot of Rider fans. We Rider fans can find all kinds of things to complain about. And a lot of Rider fans complain about the fact that we drafted Dembski and we had him and we let him go to Winnipeg as a free agent. And that is all true. But it's also true, as Lapo pointed out, Saskatchewan was running him as the wide out, and that was it. Basically a decoy at that point, the way the games were being played. And when they got him as a free agent in Winnipeg, Lapo said, because we brought him in and I talked to him and I said, this is what we're going to do. This is how I see using you, doing all of this stuff. And of course, if you're going to become a feature in the offense, you're going to want to sign. Okay. Well, that's beaten to death. Game 2, Edmonton went to Ottawa and took out a 30-20 victory. And I will let one of you guys talk about the game, other than I'll say that the panel had Stavros Katsantonis on as their guest, and they opened with a pre-planned scripted bit to how they were going to introduce him with Milt as a magician. And they're trying so hard, and it just fell on its face so bad until at the end, Milt gave the Miltradamus laugh, a great evil laugh, and that saved the bit. Anyway, that was just the beginning. Who wants to talk about the game more?
Well, I'll just say that I think Stavros did pretty good on the panel. It was kind of funny. He looked like they stuffed him into that suit. Boy, just let him wear his street clothes. Anyway.
He certainly did better than Rhymes did the other weekend.
Yeah. I'm like, don't retire from the Ticats just yet. Just need to stay a little longer, buddy. This is the game where I'm like, can we please make the Trey Ford trade? Did not happen. Man, those Red Blacks, they love to get down by like 3 scores, and then just try to storm back, only to fall short at the very end. 2 games in a row. Just make a little like excitement there. Raise all their fans' blood pressure. Tanner Green wants you to know he can also hurdle. In case you didn't think it was just Herslow. No, Tanner Green from Lacombe can also hurdle men. I'm like, one of these guys is going to get their groin like ripped apart pretty soon doing these hurdles. But until then, it's fun to watch. Again, Cody had more rushing yards than any of his running backs. Blanchard did well. He had to punt and kick.
Sorry, did you say Cody had more rushing yards than Rankin?
I know Rankin got a lot of passing, but I thought he had a bunch of running yards too.
Cody had 5 carries for 57 yards. Rankin had 14 carries for 36 yards.
Interesting. Okay.
And then Rankin had five catches for 58 yards receiving. But Cody outrushed him again.
Yeah, they've been using him a lot out of the backfield, so.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised by that. I thought he would have had more rushing yards than that.
Yeah, I thought he would have had more of both. Both of those seem really light.
Game wasn't very good, you guys.
Yep.
And then, funny, I think Cody, have you noticed? I think So my sister
Sorry,
and I got
geez, that's what I said about the game the week before that they played.
Yeah.
I know, right? This is why we're all like, oh, the crossover. Edmonton's so good, guys. We need to change all the rules for them.
Yeah.
My sister and I got friendship bracelets at our yoga camp, and her recreation soccer referee made her take it off because somebody's finger might get under it and dislocate. And then comes Cody Fajardo. I swear he had more, has even more bracelets than last week.
Yeah.
He's got like a few, like it's just, he's like on the Eras. He just come back from the Eras tour. Like it's just stacked. He seems to still be able to throw with them on.
I don't know what it is about refs with stuff like that. My middle son got his ACL injured just when he was going into the high school football. And we ended up getting him one of the Don Joy braces just to make sure that it was gonna go okay. There were refs in our high school football league that told us he couldn't play wearing it. I wasn't coaching at the time. I was just watching, but I knew the coach very well and talking to him. And he said they threatened that he couldn't play and he had to fight like heck to get it done. And the only way that they would let him play in the game was they literally had to go out and get foam and wrap his his thigh and his upper leg in foam and tape it over all of this stuff. Because what if somebody gets hit with that brace, Yeah, like they get hit
What
with
if
helmets.
someone gets hit with Cody's bracelets?
Yeah. Think how many running yards he would have had without all that weight.
Yeah, he's just weighing him down. My last big point is this game's kind of just but they showed Trey Ford and Eugene Lewis after the game together. They looked so happy together, and I was so sad that they don't play with each other anymore. Anyway,
Yep.
it was cute to see them together. They
Yeah.
looked happy. And then, Elks, another big win over a really bad team. I thought they were packing up Bob Dice's desk at halftime, and then they're like started creeping back a little, but it's never quite enough with them, unless they're playing Calgary.
Yeah.
And go figure that. Well, I guess there's reasons why that happened, and
there's always
sense,
those are extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. Neither
The first one,
I'll give you that, G.
The first one was fine. The second one was the no quarterback. I get it. No, Ottawa, you're right. It's just like they started off again, down 17. Here we go again. And like James Morgan, Crum played okay. He played relatively well, but just not good enough, And it's weird that you say that about the Rankins offense, because on watching the game, it seemed like he had a lot more than that. And I wrote down, my note was, that's all Edmonton's offense is Rankin. You take him out and they got nothing. They don't scare you at all. If I'm Calgary next week, I just put a spy on him. Let him try to beat you some other way, because he's the only thing that they had going on that I could see. And I still think Justin Hardy's pretty good.
Oh, he's good.
He's so underrated, He really is. He just doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Can you imagine if he was playing with
Ottawa
VA?
Special teams just what's that?
Can you imagine if Hardy was playing with VA?
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
But and Ottawa Special teams let them down again. If it wasn't, that's again, they've been doing it all year, but that TD that they allowed was the difference in the end. It's unfortunate, but they're just Ottawa. They just continue to manage to find ways to lose.
Yeah. Well, on their first 4 drives, I think their second drive, if I remember right, they actually might have got a field goal out of it. They moved the ball really well. This is Ottawa I'm talking about here. But 1, 3, and 4, they all took either sacks or tackles for a loss or a penalty that ended up leaving them in second and extra longer than 10 yards.
Yeah.
And they weren't good enough to overcome that. And by the time that had happened, they were already down 17-0. And they fought to get back in it. The rest of the game, they outscored Edmonton 20-13. But they just...
Yeah.
And you said Crum actually looked kind of like a professional quarterback in there. His lack of accuracy hurt them a couple of throws, but he looked better than I've seen him before.
The last thing I'll say about the game was when I was reading some of the notes on it, and one of the follow-ups on was it from the CFL forums, the CFL fan forums that they have. And this is for you, MJ. One of the guys or one of the people, because I don't know, on the forums, their tag name is Balmy Beachers.
It's not me though, I promise.
I wondered for a moment.
I would never pick a Toronto football name.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Well, that's that one covered. So let's jump on
Yeah.
to game 3, which was the interesting one of the weekend, I thought. BC 34 at Toronto 52. All of a sudden, Toronto had an offense. And the first thing I noticed right at the start, it reminded me that I think it was 2 weeks ago, GT, you were talking about them playing the old music on TSN. I can't remember who it was, back in Turnover Drive or stuff like that. This week, apparently they opened with the Sam Roberts Band, and I'm assuming they're probably much more relevant because I've never heard of them. So now I'm not a big
That song
pop
is
music guy anyway, but
I want to tell you that song is probably almost 20 years old.
oh, really? So they're
It's
not
from the
relevant.
mid
Okay.
2000s. It's from the mid to late 2000s, maybe early
Yeah,
2010s.
it is.
But it's not, it's not new.
Okay, well, I'm wrong, man. I guess they're still
I'm glad you
trying to
enjoyed
cater
it.
to us.
Sam Roberts is one of my favorite Canadian bands.
Okay. How about you on this one, GT? Do you want to go first?
Sure. Sure. I was at the game again, and it was a great day. It was a great crowd. It was exciting before the game even started. BC looked like they were going to run away with it. It was
Mhm.
like it started off,
Oh,
and the entire crowd that's been for people that have been there before were like, here we go again. Right? It just looked like it was BC was going to run away with the game, and then all of a sudden Toronto started getting going, and it took them till quarter 2 before they did. But once they started, there was no stopping them. Arbuckle was just like firing darts left, right, and center. Guys were making catches. Heslow's like going crazy, and it was just like it was incredible. They just kept going and going. In the meantime, BC was also lost in that. BC was still scoring as well. And they were, even though they were down, the feeling still was they were never out of it. In live, I don't know how it was on TV, but live, it still felt like this game's close and BC could come back. It's Rourke. They're never down. And he would fire one down the field and everybody like, uh-oh. But then they couldn't stop Toronto, and Arbuckle would come back and just do something else again. And it was like, holy mackerel, what a game. And they came out and they did the flea flicker, and I sat there and I laughed. I started laughing out loud. I go, man, they're pulling out all the stops today. They're just making stuff up at this point. It was just like, come on, here we go. It was pretty wild. It was a fun game to watch. It was a really fun game to watch, beginning to end.
I would agree with you that it didn't feel like it was over at any point. But when I went back and looked at the line score, once they hit that second quarter, the Argos outscored BC in every quarter going on. So BC was falling further and further behind with it as it was going along. I personally, like a lot of people are saying, what was this turnaround? The defense still wasn't great for Toronto, but their offense is just really blowing up now. Well, they've already got 2 games like this where they were on the other end of it, where Hamilton, I can't remember the other one, where they scored a lot but just couldn't catch up, same way BC was doing. I'm putting the whole change down to Dinwiddie's lucky shave, because I don't know if you would have noticed at the game, but his beard was gone. He was a nice, clean shave, and I don't think there was any ranting at the end of the game. I didn't hear about any anyway.
No, I didn't hear about any. The only other thing I think I mentioned earlier was the new running back. It just the running game for Toronto looked completely different. His statistics weren't that amazing, and a lot of it was in the fourth quarter once they kind of had the game in hand. But from the time he came into the game, he was shaky the first two plays, and then after that, he was doing everything right, and he was running with speed, something we've not seen in the Toronto offense all year long. He was like breaking holes and doing it quickly, not ploddingly, not looking for a hole, but just getting one and going and breaking corners and going around the outside and stuff. Again, just not seeing that running game at all from Toronto. And I think that makes a difference for your whole team when you've got another aspect that you can rely on. So I think that helped to lift the whole team up as well. So made him, but Arbuckle was on fire. It was incredible.
This is the
Well,
first game where I thought this Arbuckle looked like he was having fun, and it looked like it was
yeah.
his team and it was his show. That's the first time I've seen it all year, and I was really happy for him. Arbuckle and Herslow are really quite dangerous together, but it was just really nice to see them clicking. Well, it was nice to see Arbuckle
Yeah.
finally getting some credit and some due, and it looked like it was finally he was in charge and he was running the show, and look what happened.
Same thing you said, GT. I had in my notes. The Argos found the running game. I don't know where they must have had it in a locker somewhere or something, because suddenly it was back. And yeah, 85 yards, a touchdown.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
19 carries or something too. Like not like it was one big one, but
Yeah.
they kept going at it and kept going at it. It was like, oh, we have a guy now. We're going to continue to use him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And that was with less than a full game because
yeah.
McMahon started.
Also, I just said my notes say Buck does stupid things. He challenges stupid things. And
Mhm.
why are you kicking a 6-yard field goal? Why? That's a stupid decision. And sometimes I wonder, I don't know, she is doing stupid things too. But when they were together, they seem to kind of balance each other out. And now that they're apart, they're kind of both doing ridiculous things. My
Yeah.
husband was furious. He
Heather.
was like, why is Benavides on this team? Why is Buck even keeping him there? He's like dooming and glooming all over the place. I was like, you put up 34 points, so it's not a complete disaster, but
Well, they've got
yeah.
Nathan. And, and
Yeah.
I mean, Katoy made that one real nice touchdown run along the sidelines where he tight-roped it in. And But yeah, their defense is,
Remember my hot take from who's the first coach to get fired?
yeah, this
It's
reminds
it's
me
like
of
if he,
Benavides' defenses.
oh my gosh, what a disaster. I feel
I
bad because
said it. I
their
said it
offense
6
is,
weeks ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
If only
Yeah,
they would
they're
listen
just,
to
I
us.
don't know.
My favorite part of this game was Kate Burness just was living her best life at the CNE.
Oh, yes, with all her
I
stuff.
just
Oh, she's won.
she beat Milt at all the games, and Milt was, he was so mad, and she was just having a blast, and it was just fun to see. I love her. I love her so much, and it was just, yeah, that was a fun game. And so, well done, TSN. They were all there. They were, the panel set up behind the skyline, like the
Yeah.
gondola.
Mhm.
And they really did it well and showcased the CNA well, showcased the Argos well. It was a really good on TSN for how they broadcasted that game.
Yes. And they managed to do a on-site panel and not have Kate get any marriage proposals
That
that we saw. Yeah. But they were talking about the last time the Hamilton mascot proposing to her. Wow. I thought it was a great game. It was exciting as hell. But to me, the play of the game is something that probably a lot of people missed. It was Jackson Finley, I think it is, for BC on special teams. He was on, I think it was punt cover. I don't think it was kickoff, but punt cover. But he was coming from the outside. He had the gunner role of just going in and making it. Janarian Grant. Yeah, so his job was to get down there, come in fast. If you miss the tackle, it doesn't matter. You're making him make a move, and we all get there. He came in fast, went low, and slid underneath Grant, got up and made the tackle himself while Grant was kind of dancing back and forth with the oncoming players. I thought that was a fantastic effort play.
Yeah, he actually even live I said a couple times, I said his name at least 2 or 3 times to my pals. I was like, yeah, no, he's having a really good game. I was very impressed. He looks like another one of the rookies of this year's crop that is really standing out.
Anything else?
Yes, we have to talk about Chad. Why is he
Okay.
at
Do we?
games? Did you see GT? You were there. Did you see him? So after the final whistle blew, he was over taunting the BC Lions bench, saying that they got a 50 piece on them, and he was like kind of stumbling around. Honestly, the video looks like he was drunk, but he was like, "Oh, we got a 50 piece on you," and I was like, "Oh, sir, sit down. You didn't even play.
You had nothing to do with that
You
game.
had
Yeah.
nothing to do with it." And I was just thinking, you got this clown on the sideline, like trash talking. Meanwhile, here's Arbuckle, who is easily a much more marketable person. He is less money. He's not like he looks good throwing out baseballs. He's a good human. And he's there with his kid. They showed a picture video of him with his two girls after the game walking on the field. And then there's Chad. I got a 50 piece on you. Just you don't need him. You won with Arbuckle.
No,
He looks
there's-
good. Hurst, yeah, you don't need Chad.
Yeah. There were at least 2 or 3 other games this year that he could have won the game if they had any kind of a defense at all. You know, they
Oh
were
yeah, absolutely.
like I think
Yeah,
they've got to be the highest
he's
scoring
not
team
the
in the
reason
league.
they're 3 and whatever. No, by
Yeah.
any means.
No, not at all.
Well, from what I read somewhere, Kelly was at practice again this week and practicing at limited because he's, again, the last 2 weeks of your 6 weeks, you're allowed to be in practice and you're allowed to be practicing again. So apparently he was back at practice. So again, who knows what the status is there. But at some stage, you're right, MJ. If Arbuckle continues to light it up, do they continue to just say, you know what, Chad, maybe you're not quite ready. Maybe maybe you need to take another week. Maybe, who knows? But I think this year you can't say this is Arbuckle now forever because you don't know after his career's been spotty enough that this might be the outlier, not the rest of his career, right? So you can't pin all your hopes on him, type of thing. As much as I'd like to agree with you because he's deserved it over the years, you still can't pin all your hopes on him yet, unless you decide that, you know what, we can pin our hopes on him and Tucker Horn is, 2 years away, and if the transition's there, right? Maybe that's what you can do. Nick gets us through the rest of this year and next year, and Tucker Horn's our guy the year after that, if you believe enough in him, like Montreal did with Davis Alexander. You just got to give him the time to assimilate, as we talked about earlier, and learn the playbook. So maybe that's a plan, but I still don't believe it. I don't believe that Toronto's management thinks anything other than Chad Kelly's going to be the quarterback as soon as he is able to be the quarterback. They continue to make weird decisions on bringing players in, as we talked about another player earlier in the year or earlier in the podcast. They just went out and signed one of the Sanders, the second Sanders kid. And if you look at his record, he just got turf from a team where the coach just said, whatever play he did, that is not acceptable, and you're off the team. And then you look at his college record, and when they talked about it on 3 Down, it's a list of things this long that are like kicking guys and like just doing stuff that is not what I would say good human being behavior. And yet they just put him on the negotiation list.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a DB. Do you really need him that badly? You're not, it's not, it's like, so I don't think they're overly concerned about people's overall behavior.
Clearly not.
I just get that feeling from Toronto management.
No, what I read is that there's what people are saying got him kicked off the Buffalo team was he threw a punch after one of the preseason games. I tend to think that because now they've got him and his brother on there now. It's a negotiation list. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think that's a PR move from the Argos. It's just a way to get their name in the paper.
And they got it a lot because it sure made a lot of different press reports.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
But nobody cares about negotiation lists. I still remember somebody saying,
apparently
GT,
not.
you'll be so proud of me. I saw that and I was like, the negotiation list. I paid attention. Look at, I'm going to tell GT I saw him on the negotiation list.
All righty. Is that one beaten to death?
Yeah,
we got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we're done the games for the week then. nothing else to talk about here.
Yeah, no, that's it.
115 at Calgary 32. Now, generally, we take whoever has got the team in the game takes the lead. Both GT and I are here. I'm going to steal the lead because talking the Saskatchewan side, I can sum it up in the 3 bullet points I've got.
All right.
Sloppy first quarter, pretty good second quarter. Second half of the game, they were a semi-pro team. There was that. The loss of Sales in their secondary, and then Lacumbo later, didn't lose them that game. People are using that as an excuse. That's not what that happened there at all. And it's time to go 1-0 this week because it's all you can say.
Yeah.
I'll leave the most of it, the Calgary side, to you because there's a lot of good stuff to say about Calgary.
Yeah, there is. I thought well, first of all, I'm going to say that was one of the weakest PIs on that first play that I've ever seen. That was a ridiculous call. It gave the gave the Riders a chance on the very opening drive to get it down there, and thankfully Lowther kicks for them. So, they only ended up with one.
Is that the one
So
that Dave tried to challenge?
he should have, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't have been a challenge. They lost it. I don't know how they lost it, but you can't. But it was a bad call to begin with. And then they didn't have a challenge for the rest of the game. Fortunately enough, it didn't come back to hurt them, but it was ridiculous that he had to challenge it because it was a really weak call. But anyways, I thought, my notes say Calgary looks great in the first quarter. Saskatchewan looks great in the second quarter. After that, Calgary took the game over and wasn't allowing anything else to happen. Calgary's defense from there on in the second half played as terrific a game against that Saskatchewan team as you can play other than the last time they played them. And they just, again, out-physicaled Saskatchewan on both sides of the ball. And it made all the difference in the world. Harris wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't able to get the ball out like he likes to get the ball out. And he was rattled and it showed, and he was hurt. And I think they pulled him. It almost looked like Saskatchewan pulled a basketball and just threw in the towel with 5 minutes left and sent in the subs. But I think it was because he also got whacked a couple of times really hard just before that, and they needed to get him back off the field and catch his breath, and also didn't want to get him hurt anymore going into this weekend's game against Winnipeg because he was getting beat up really badly. And Calgary's defense looked amazing. I thought Adams looked really good, but not great. I thought he's looked much more magic in other games. I thought he managed that game really well. Didn't do anything spectacular, but managed it when it happened, when he needed to. He had 2 interceptions, but one of them was a tip ball, so that's not really his fault. And the other one, he shouldn't have thrown the ball after he slipped in the backfield, but decided to launch it down on the field anyways. But if he had got tackled in the backfield, they would have been punting, and that long interception was as good as a punt, basically. So it's one of those that really didn't matter. But really, it just comes down to that Calgary just plain out physical them again. That's what it comes down to. They just beat them up, both sides, because VA was not under a ton of pressure either. So Saskatchewan's defensive line was not getting through Calgary's offensive line that in any major way. Sure, they got some pressures, but they were not busting through like Calgary was against them. So again, the trenches were all in the red guys' favor. So
yeah, I would push back a little bit on the physicality side of it. It seemed to me like in the first half, and especially that second quarter, that they were in there holding their own with the Calgary lines on both sides of the ball, and they were doing fairly well at it. So I thought, well, that's encouraging. But then I don't know if it was just subtle changes in their blocking and rushing schemes or what they did. But the second half, they came out and completely dominated. And that's when Harris started getting hit. I think he was sacked once in the first half and then multiple times in the second. So I can't believe that a team could just suddenly turn on the physicality that much more than that. And they did look so much more physical in that second half. It looked like a different game. So that's where I think it's got to be something come down to the coaching deciding to change up how they were utilizing both the O and the D line. And it sure worked.
Yeah, what sack was that? I can't remember who sacked Harris, but they only rushed 3, and he got sacked, and then they showed the sack in slow-mo about 5 times, and then showed it regular speed about 1,000 times. And I was like, oh, that's a tough one. But
Yeah.
I was like, that's my TSN shady
Yeah.
replay report. Like they showed that. And I'm like, why do you
Yeah.
need to show this in slow-mo? It's so awful. Just like they're so terrible.
Well, yes. And I know I'm hearing a lot of Rider fans complain about the fact that they put Mayer in with 4 minutes to go. I don't have any problem with that at all. What you said, GT, is right. He was in serious danger out there, and he's 39
Yeah.
years old. And if
Yeah.
he goes, then our season looks a whole, shouldn't say our, I'm
Yeah.
not on the team. Their
Well, and
season looks
he
a
had
whole
didn't
lot better, a lot worse. If
yeah, and they hadn't scored since the half. So at one point, are you going to just let him
Yeah.
get like he was sacked 4 times? But they say he'd been sacked 7 times all year, and then he got sacked 4 times in this game. You can't leave a guy like that in
first
when
game
it's
with more than one.
yeah. So no, there's no reason. You got to like at some point you want to win a game, but you also have to play the long game. And then
Yeah.
I heard that
Yeah, I didn't think it was a bad decision at all.
no, and sometimes like things this happens all the time. He's not playing well, so we're just going to change it up a little, like throw somebody else in. Like no one else gets like we don't complain when anyone else gets pulled when they're not playing well. But why were people upset about Harris?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think because there's such a drop off to the next level of quarterback, which is why it was such a good move for them to make. And like you said, they'd scored 15 points in 56 minutes of football. And you think, oh, we're going to leave him in there and score 18 more in the last 4 minutes to get a win? Oh, no.
Yeah. I heard the Riders signed a
Full
new
measure
kicker.
to Calgary for this game.
Yeah. I heard the Riders signed a new
Yes.
kicker. Whoa, Lawther. Whoa,
I'm trying to
boy.
can't
They
remember the name now.
They call Campbell Fair, right?
Campbell Fair. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's his third go round, but he did have a great college career in Ottawa and was pretty excited. I was pretty excited when Calgary drafted him 2 years ago. I think they got him in like the 8th round. It got him a heck of a deal on him. And then he did really well. And I thought, again, but Rene just keeps coming back. So Calgary just don't, let him loose. And then he went to Edmonton, and I thought he was going to get a shot, but then, that didn't work out. So then he seemed to disappear this year, and now he's back in Saskatchewan, hoping for another go round. So I think he's, he is a good kicker. So maybe he can make a difference.
It's like
I think he probably starts this weekend.
Yeah. The one chink in the armor, right? Like you need a reliable kicker if you want to be going to Grey Cup.
Well, they march down and get in easy makeable field goal range, and he misses it. And they didn't really use him after that at all. I think they went for one convert kick with him, but just didn't let him in there. And then the other thing is, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of nerves to it too, because the other thing that happened early in that game was Keyshawn Johnson was wide open in the end zone and just dropped the ball. And that's when they had to kick the field goal and get 1 point. You go from what's an easy 7, it looks like, to 1 point. And that seemed to just get them kerfuffled for the rest of the first quarter. They finally turned it around a bit in the second, and like I said, they were looking like an okay team. But that's where I say you can't blame the changes in the Riders secondary, because really the Calgary offense didn't walk all over them. They won, and they probably still would have won regardless of how the game went, but it was mostly the fact that they got as high as it was because the Riders just could not stay in the field in the second half.
Yeah, it's not like VA threw 400 yards like Arbuckle. Like it was a pretty average game.
No, yeah.
Yeah, he managed that game more than anything. I thought he didn't, he was, and Calgary was without their top 2 receivers.
Yeah.
So they weren't even stretching the field as much as they normally would be, right? One of the things I did notice was that I did think Calgary's receivers were doing an excellent job blocking downfield. I thought that they, again, have impressed me with that over the course of the season. And it was, in the game against Ottawa a few weeks ago, I was ready to just cut Baldwin loose. He was the guy, that was his first game he played, and he was horrible. There was no other word for it. He was just terrible. And yet, his second game he played 2 days ago or whatever it was, he looked really well, really good. So, I guess that's why we don't coach and we don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's why we just do this.
Yeah. So much
Uh-oh.
easier from here.
What is the CFL though? Because like the Ticats can't beat the Riders can't beat the Stamps, and the Stamps can't beat the Red Blacks, right? Like what? It's just
Yeah.
it's just how it goes. Some
I
teams
don't
just have
know.
your
I
number.
don't know.
Yeah.
Calgary definitely seems to have the secret sauce against the Riders this year. I mean,
Which is worrisome for
even
you.
what I said about the change at halftime. In the first half, the Riders were doing a pretty good job of keeping Mills in check. And then they
Yep.
came out in the second half, and again, whatever the changes were, he was just, I don't know what his final stats were, but he was getting a fair amount of yardage.
Yeah. Well, Calgary's also 5-0 in the West,
Yeah.
3-0 against Winnipeg, 2-0 against Saskatchewan, and 0-3 against the East.
Yes.
Lost to Montreal, lost to Ottawa twice.
Yes.
Lost to Montreal, and I don't think Davis Alexander played that game.
Yeah.
Lost to Ottawa twice, and I don't think Drew Brown played either of those
Yeah.
games. It's like, come on. Like, as you said, MJ, it makes no sense
It
at all.
doesn't make sense.
But welcome to the wonderful world of the CFL, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. And they could be 7-0 in the next two games against the West.
Yeah, they could.
Because they certainly, while I'm not counting on it, they certainly look like they're a better team than Edmonton.
I would agree. It would be a pretty big upset. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes with the games here. But yeah,
Yeah.
and really, I know, the Rider guy in the back of my head is sitting saying, yeah, well, the Riders haven't played as much against the West, and they've lost to Calgary twice. But other than that, they're 8-0 against the rest of the league. So it's a weird year.
It certainly is.
Sure.
But
Just
isn't
like every year in
year's
the
a
CFL.
weird year?
So, guys,
Anything else to say about that?
The Calgary Stampeders did some marketing. They made T-shirts.
Okay.
Alfred was saying the moose is loose with him doing his moose antlers.
Oh,
Yes,
cool.
So you can get
Yeah.
a moose is loose T-shirt.
I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
He looks to me.
I'll put it on my Christmas list.
There you go.
He looks to me like if he sticks around, he's the kind of player that will be really easy to market. He seems like he's got a great personality, and
Yeah.
Yes.
He did
I
his
can
moose
see him being a
his
fan
moose
favorite for as long
celebration
as he's
after he got a first down. He did his moose celebration he was over at the
Yeah.
Stampeders sideline and did his moose celebration to the boys over there. So I think he was happy to be back on the field. And Phil Potts back. It looked like he was happy about that.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
That was good to see. I know that an awful lot of people were expecting Alfred to go off again because of what he did against the Riders in that first game, but they didn't have Trayvon Campbell at corner in that game. It was the backup that was in, and Campbell I'm surprised at how good he is. I thought that they might be making a mistake going that way because, he's getting older and he didn't play that much in the NFL, but he's sure having a hell of a year. Anything else? Okay.
Nope.
I'm calling it. That game officially goes flushed out of my mind now.
There
I
you
will
go.
not remember it anymore. So we got to talk about this week. Only the 3 games, Sunday and then 2 on Monday. So we start out the Sunday, Winnipeg at Saskatchewan. What do you think? Who's going to win?
Riders.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get these later. I'll put easy to take notes on that. But yeah, I tend to agree. I don't know about them winning both of them because the Banjo Bowl can be a different sort of thing. But in Saskatchewan, with the way that the teams have looked, I'd say the Riders. How about you, MJ?
So the Bombers are like being I love Labor Day. This is my favorite weekend. The Bombers were posting Instagram stories of Castillo kicking field goals. Shady. And then they had a video of like, what's your favorite thing about Regina? And as soon as the player starts to talk, it just goes to static. So they're having fun with it. I love it.
Yeah, they do like to do it.
Yeah. And then Banjo Bowl is one of my favorite things.
Yes.
That all
Yeah.
being said, I don't care how much Brady hits his helmet. I think it's going to be Saskatchewan.
Actually, I forgot to mention back when we were talking the games, the Winnipeg-Montreal game, like I said, Morgan did better than I expected, and it actually turned into a pretty good game. Because when I went in, I was thinking, the most exciting thing about this game might very well be who kicks the longest field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maltos and Casillo in the
Yeah,
same
we
game?
didn't get that. We didn't get a good kicker
No,
like face off there.
but we
That's
did get a good game, though.
disappointing. Yes.
Relatively good, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not as good as BC and Toronto, but it was still entertaining. And speaking of Toronto, game 2 we start the Labor Day Monday with Toronto at Hamilton. I'll say I'm going Hamilton.
My sister is getting married this weekend, and how nice of her to not get married on the day the Ticats play. She planned it out perfectly. I will never pick the Argos in the Labor Day Classic. I'm going Hamilton. Argos suck.
Yeah, I think, as I said last week, I'm not picking the Argos again until they prove me wrong, and they didn't prove me wrong. They just won a great game, so I'm still picking Hamilton.
Yeah, I think that it'll probably be a high-scoring game, and I'll be
hope
looking
so.
I think you could be right.
there for a lot of my fantasy
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I could see it being another
Let's get over 100
90 point
points,
game.
boys. 100
Yeah,
points.
easily.
Let's do it.
They're getting close in some of these ones.
Yeah.
If BC had held up their end, they could have had a 100-point game there. No, I don't think that the offense is going to be able to stay ahead of Bo and what that Hamilton offense is doing. And I could be wrong. If somehow Toronto gets up by, 7-10 points, it could change that. But I don't see it happening. Anyway, the last one. Edmonton at Calgary.
Well, I'm going Calgary, obviously, not just because of the colors, but also because I just think they're a better team at this stage. And I don't believe that. I think Edmonton's got lucky, kind of, in 3 weeks in a row. They've deserved to win, but I still don't believe that they were up against the greatest opponents, and they had a lot of things go right that I think they're not going to have happen. Calgary's proved that they don't panic so far this year, so I don't think they'll panic even if Edmonton happens to score early. I think Calgary will just clamp down again. That defense is playing really well. And as I said, if they put a guy like Roberts as a linebacker and just spy Brankin and just follow him around the field and make sure he doesn't bust any of those little out passes and come out around the corner, then I think there's not much else that Cody's going to do. And I just can't believe they're going to be able to get through that. So I'm picking Edmonton, or I should say I'm picking Calgary this week for sure. And then we'll see what happens the following week.
How about you, MJ?
If there ever was a time for VA to shine, it's at Labor Day Classic. You thought the Stampede Bowl was exciting? Just you wait. I think he's good. And I think, Alfred's back. It was his first game back. I think second game back, he'll be even lights out. Let's go, Calgary.
Well, by the way, did you know you picked Calgary last week?
I saw.
You get the victory for that.
I was like, yes, the VA vibes. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Yep. Yes. Well, I'm going Calgary too. They are the better team. To me, the only way that this still could potentially go bad for Calgary is they haven't played Edmonton yet. If Masimic has somehow got the kind of secret sauce for Calgary that Calgary has for Regina, but I wouldn't count on that because he hasn't played very well against Calgary when he was in BC. Unless there's something weird like that goes on, it looks to me like this is probably the easiest game of the weekend to pick.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. One of the things that I just hearkening back to the last game a bit too, I thought one of the more interesting things was the quotes after the last 2 weeks when Saskatchewan beat Hamilton. We sent a memo to the league. As I said, well, Calgary didn't get the memo,
no, they
I
did
guess.
not.
Right? So, and there was a lot of bulletin board type talk coming out of Saskatchewan, and immediately, just right away in the post game, not even the next day or whatever, it was immediate how fast they were strutting their stuff, so to speak. and you listen to the game after Calgary beat Saskatchewan, and from Dickinson on down, every quote that came up was, it was a good game. We got a really good up-and-coming Edmonton team coming in. We've got to be ready. That, to me, spoke volumes about this team that's, as I say, seems to be really quite level-headed. So if Maximic can come up with some special sauce, I don't know what it is, because they're not a team that they're going to, so far, they're not a team that's allowed themselves to just fall apart. The mental toughness has been there.
No one yet has done a real good job of figuring out their defense.
Right.
So that's, like I say, that's the only thing, is if he knows something that the rest of us don't. But I would not be, I do not bet, never throw my money away on something like betting. But if I were a betting man, I would never be taking Edmonton in this game, no matter what. So yeah, no, it's there. We're just about at the end. GT, do you want to take an opportunity to take a jab at me or a cheer for Calgary or something? I think your team earned you that right this week.
No. There's lots of time left. That's fine.
Okay,
I'm
then.
good. I've got this week to worry about. This is still the big week. Well, there's lots of time left. When it comes down to November, then we'll worry about jab. But I think there's a couple of hot takes that we said earlier in the year that might yet come true. So then I'll be able to bring them back up a bit.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hey, listen, what could I say? I'm not also the guy that picked the Stampeders to finish last in the conference. So there's no reason for me to now be sticking up and talking about how wonderful I am. So no, I won't do that.
They've been a pleasant surprise, and it's good for the whole league. But we'll see. But yeah, what you said there also made me think, this is Labor Day now that we're coming up to, and everyone still says the old CFL chestnut. Well, the season really starts after Labor Day, and I don't think that that's so much true. When that was first said, Labor Day was game 9 of the season. You were halfway through. You had half the games to go. It was fall weather and that. Now it's been moved up, and most of the teams have played 10, 11 games. So there's less after Labor Day. And I don't think you can say that anymore. Just pushing back against how many people still seem to parrot that.
Yeah, I think these are just real important because they're always inter-conference games at this time of year where it's usually tight. Even if you're not playing, like Saskatchewan and Winnipeg are far enough apart that this doesn't mean that much in the standings to both of those teams, but it means a lot in the standings to all the teams in the league. So it's, it's big for that, but I agree with you. It's, there's just so many more reasons for that saying not to hold true as much as it once did. Yeah,
definitely. Although if the Bombers were somehow to sweep the Riders, they'd be one game off of the Riders. They'll have to gain more, because I will be surprised if Calgary doesn't win the next 2.
Yeah,
I hope you're right.
I guess that about brings us to the end. Oh my gosh, we're over 2 hours this time.
Oh, it's because I'm back, guys.
Oh well,
sorry.
It's been a fun chat. So
there was a couple things we were. There was a couple things we weren't going to talk about that we talked about for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so I think so. And there is some editing to be done, but we'll get to that. So let's do our normal sign-offs. Any closing thoughts from you, and remind the folks about where they can find and follow you?
Okay, so it's Labor Day. I'm going to do my best VA. God bless. Go Stamps.
I love it.
Okay, MJ.
We need to discuss the CFL Outsiders budget so I can attend Taylor and Travis's wedding, and I can report back if Zach Caleris is there and what he is wearing. Come discuss with me at Sports and Plants on Blue Sky.
Oh, I'm sure you won't be the only one.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we would probably need some sponsors or something for that. And for me, you can find me on Blue Sky at Oldman-SAC and the rest of the Blue Sky stuff, where the show is on Blue Sky and Twitter as the CFL Outsiders. And frankly, you can find me on the CFL Reddit too, if you want to go there. But that's about it. Thank you guys, GT and MJ, for another great show. I want to remind all the fans out there that are listening in, please subscribe. It certainly helps us. The subscriber base is growing, but we'd like it a little quicker. And you certainly help us out with just hitting the like button. Even if you don't like it, just do a good deed and leaving comments. But enjoy that. And I think that's about all that we've got, other than it's Labor Day. So don't know. Will it be the traditional Labor Day madness, or will they all be duds? You never know. I hope we have another great, great week. And until next week, for MJ and GT's, the old man saying, get the hell off my lawn.